The Edusphere is currently abuzz over the fallout from last spring's decision by the Oklahoma State Legislature that teachers in Oklahoma's public elementary and secondary schools don't actually need any training in, teaching. They don't need a teaching certificate. They don't have to be working toward one. They don't need any sort of college degree at all, or any college coursework. They do need at least a GED, and they must have distinguished qualifications. What counts? I don't know. Whatever the local school board decides is acceptable. In the face of public outcry, the law's sponsors, State Senator Jessica Garvin and State Representative Kyle Hilbert, have been quick to reassure everybody that nothing much has changed. The sad thing is, they're right. Oklahoma has used adjunct teachers, which is to say people who don't need to have any training as a teacher, to fill classrooms since 1991. Let's be clear. These aren't substitutes. They're not temporarily filling in for the teacher of record. They are the teacher of record. The 2022 change simply removes the stipulation that they spend no more than 270 hours per semester teaching in a classroom. It's about 3 hours per school day, or half-time-ish. Now they can teach full-time. However, there doesn't seem to be any evidence that adjunct teachers are anything more than a Band-Aid on a sucking chest wound, because as a 2021 report from the State Department of Education admits, experience information for adjunct teachers is not tracked. The same report mentions a significant drop in the number of teachers in 2016 to 2017 due to major state funding cuts. This seems to imply that teachers were laid off or non-renewed, which is odd given Oklahoma's apparent ongoing problems getting enough teachers. One very important result of having fewer teachers is that each teacher is responsible for more students. This means that classrooms are more crowded, disruptions and personality conflicts between students are more frequent and more severe. Providing feedback on student work takes more time, meaning it becomes less relevant to the learner. And even a well-run classroom becomes more active, making it more difficult to attend to all the different needs of each individual student. It becomes more difficult to teach. And when you don't have any training, even more so. There is, however, evidence that effective instruction is an ongoing challenge for Oklahoma. According to this year's National Assessment of Educational Progress, most states have again seen declines in scores in reading and math, the two subjects tested in 4th and 8th grades. For Oklahoma, 4th grade reading scores are down 8 points, the 4th worst drop in the nation. 8th grade reading scores are down 7 points. That's the 2nd worst. It's important to remember that there are a lot of factors involved, and comparison, after all, is the thief of joy. But this sort of information can reveal patterns that we can study to hopefully help us understand what causes them. Based on looking over a lot of information, which I've linked down in the description, over just the past few days, here are what I believe to be the relevant points. In 2015, Oklahoma released a report about its teacher shortage. The report made 9 legislative recommendations, including increasing teacher pay, having scholarships for the teacher certification exams, reinstating a mentoring program for new teachers, paying student teachers, offering leadership stipends and opportunities to veteran teachers to serve as mentors or lead teachers, and offering certificate reciprocity with other states. In 2017, there was another report that was released nationwide about education funding across the country. It revealed that there had been sharp cuts to state education budgets due to the Great Recession that began in 2007. Oklahoma and other states further reduced their revenue with tax breaks, requiring even harsher cuts to services, including education. As of 2017, there were 135,000 fewer jobs in education than in 2008, despite an increase of over 1.4 million students. The Oklahoma State Legislature responded to these issues in 2018 by approving a new salary schedule that increased pay for certified teachers New teachers with a bachelor's degree would get $5,000 more, while a teacher with 25 years of experience and a doctorate would make $8,400 more than the previous year. However, there is no salary schedule for adjunct teachers. Their pay is simply determined by the local school board. The catch is, even with this increase, veteran teachers were still not making much more than half of what similar workers in other fields were earning. And while I and most other teachers, we are very dedicated to our children in the classroom, neither my credit card company, nor my mortgage company, nor my insurance company, nor my utility provider, nor, in fact, any of the lovely folks who want money from me are willing to accept I make a difference to the future of our society instead of payment. It's also important to note that this belated cost of living increase came after a decade of austerity measures. That's what we call them in Georgia. When drastic budget cuts led to higher class sizes, limited resources for curriculum and materials, minimal support for professional development, and job losses, which meant that by 2018, there were fewer teachers who would actually get the pay bump. Given these changes, it is super interesting to look through the draft report from the Oklahoma Department of Education in December 2021 about educator supply and demand. According to Figure 19, the 2018 pay increase did not seem to affect teachers' decision to leave or stay. It continued on a slow downward trend from a sharp peak during the 2015-2016 school year. This seems to indicate that compensation, while important, is not the deciding factor in what's driving Oklahoma's teacher attrition. And that's consistent with the interpretations offered in the 2015 and 2017 reports, as well as with my own personal experience living and teaching in a rural area with low cost of living and low pay. The 2017 report in particular focuses on rural communities, and it just feels so familiar. Considering all of this, and the fact that Garvin and Hilbert are relatively new to the Oklahoma legislature, she was elected in 2020, he was in 2016, I am choosing to believe that they mean well. I want to clarify something. The two of you keep coming back to whether or not somebody has a degree. That is far less of an issue than whether or not someone has training as a teacher. Things like classroom management, instructional methods, curation and development of activities and materials, developmental psychology, and more. All of these are foundational for effective teaching. And that doesn't seem to have even occurred to you. That is very troubling. You are displaying a deep-seated assumption that content knowledge is valuable, while any familiarity with the skills foundational to effective teaching is entirely unnecessary. This is inaccurate, and it's harmful to students. So, I have some questions for you, as well as some suggestions. First, how does turnover among adjunct teachers in K-12 public schools in Oklahoma compare to turnover among certified teachers? And think of this especially in terms of leavers rather than movers. Second, what sort of pedagogical training and support are adjunct teachers even provided with? Third, how do adjunct teachers perform according to Oklahoma's value-added metric when compared to certified teachers with a similar amount of time in the classroom? This one I'm a little sketchy on because value-added systems have been shown to be impressively unreliable, with the same teacher's score sometimes fluctuating wildly from one year to the next. Still, I'm curious. And finally, as far as questions, how do adjunct teachers describe their own experience in the classroom? I haven't been able to find any blogs or websites from these educators, and it would be helpful to hear from them. My suggestions. First, reduce the instructional load for novice teachers. This was a recommendation made in the 2017 report. One example would be, in addition to their planning period, non-tenured teachers could be assigned a coverage period during which they could be asked to substitute for a teacher who was out. In addition to helping with the sub shortage, this would also provide an opportunity to get to know more students and become familiar with other teachers and their styles and methods. It would also ease the challenge of lesson planning and grading. Second, along similar lines, the 2015 report looks at teachers who leave the classroom to become administrators. But veteran teachers could be provided with a step increase and have one or more class periods as a coaching period to work with, observe, conference with new teachers about their experience and how they're feeling about their work. This would be a great way to create a bridge between teaching and administration. Teacher leaders should not have to leave the classroom in order to be recognized and compensated for their contributions. Third, expand on the idea of compensating student teachers. I like that this is an option, but rural districts in particular tend to be overlooked by prospective teachers, and they are less often partnered with a university. The 2017 report suggests providing additional resources to rural districts that are near metropolitan areas. And I would advise that funding should be provided to establish partnerships with universities and provide pay and maybe a stipend for student teachers to compensate them for additional travel or living expenses in order to study at a rural school that's further from their college. Maybe even see about targeting universities in Texas or Kansas that are just across the state line. Pull some of their students in and get them to connect with your communities. And finally, work toward increasing compensated planning and preparation time and decreasing class sizes and overall pupil load for all teachers. I realize that in order to have fewer students per teacher, you need to have more teachers. So it's kind of a chicken or the egg scenario, but school districts should be incentivized to schedule classes and teacher preparation time in ways that support effective instruction. In a middle school with 5 classes and 1 hour of prep, the 140 student maximum means about 27 students per class, which also means that it's likely that some periods have 22, 23, while others have over 30. Over 30 sixth graders in a middle school. This does not support effective instruction. Class sizes at all levels need to be significantly lower, and you should develop a plan to work toward that. I know it's been a lot. Thanks so much for paying attention, listening, and watching. There are lots and lots of links down in the description that have information. They're what I've used to gather what I have for this video. And of course, if you have ideas, suggestions, concerns, question, put it in the comments. It is more than welcome. This is something I care deeply about. I'm not in or from Oklahoma, but public education as a whole is one of the most important things that we do as a society, and it really, really matters. Before I go, though, I'd like to address a few additional people directly. First, Kate Vesper, spokesperson for Governor Kevin Stitt, so him too. Quote, "Getting a 4-year degree at a university should not be the only route to become a teacher." First question, why not? You need one to become a nurse practitioner or a school counselor or a principal. Think about why a teacher should be able to rely on life experience while those others should not. Second, Oklahoma already has emergency certification options, which do not necessarily require a college degree. They've been in place for years. So, are you ignorant? Were you misquoted? Or are you trying to deceive your constituents? And finally, Ryan Walters, the current Secretary of Education in Oklahoma and the incoming state superintendent, because he said, and again, I quote, "I don't think that a sheet of paper necessarily makes them a better teacher. Having our certificate doesn't magically make you a better teacher. There's real life experiences that are important in being an effective teacher in the classroom." Ryan, who cuts your hair? Is it your mom? Do you go see someone with training maybe even a certificate? Or do you just go to somebody who has life experience and a pair of scissors? What about your doctor? Has your doctor had training? Maybe even a medical license? Or again, life experience. And you know what? I bet you've got a driver's license. Does that piece of plastic magically make you a better driver? Or are there real life experiences that are important in being an effective driver on the road? Meaning that we don't need to require any sort of certification or licensing for our drivers. Teachers also have life experiences in addition to their training that qualifies them to be teachers. Referring to the teaching certificate that qualified educators have worked to earn as just a piece of paper is a disgusting, outrageous insult. And I hope that every single one of your constituents votes against you as soon as they possibly can, you shameful excuse for an elected official. Thanks again for watching, folks. I hope you have the sort of day that you create for others. Bye for now.